What's up, TKO Nation? Welcome back to the TKO Podcast. Make sure you tune in.
Alrighty, folks. Welcome back to Technical Knockout, the MMA Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Hussein. And today we are going to be talking about UFC Brazil. Oh, we're in Rio this week. All right. And we got Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot. Now, this is a pretty fun fight that kind of came together last minute. Well, I mean, it definitely came together last minute. It was supposed to be Oliveira versus Fiziev, which would have been a fun matchup between two pretty dynamic strikers. Obviously, Oliveira is much more well-rounded than that, but I do think that fight would have mostly played out on the feet. That would have been a fun matchup, but unfortunately, Fiziev got injured. And, honestly, at this, without getting too far into that topic, it doesn't bode well for Fiziev at this stage of his career to re-injure that knee. I feel bad for the guy. You know, guys like him and Shavkat who are super explosive, super athletic, and are now dealing with the litany of injuries. It's a shame, you know? It is what it is. This sport is very tough on your body. But out goes Fiziev. In comes Mateusz Gamrot on short notice, flying across the world. So this is a fun matchup here. We got an interesting one, you know. Mateusz Gamrot, if you guys aren't familiar, is a super high-volume wrestler. Not a ton by way of finishing prowess in either regard of striking or grappling. I mean, from what I can remember, I only remember him ever submitting one person, and that was Jeremy Stevens, so that's not some incredible jiu-jitsu ace. But, what Gamrot brings to the table is a weaponized cardio, a weaponized pace, very similar to a Merab Dvalishvili or Anthony Hernandez even. But in my opinion, much less potent than those two. Not to say that he's, pillow-fisted or, not a threat at all, but that's just the matter of the situation is that he'd much rather shoot for the legs and rack up control time and, reshoot and, take you down over and over than inflict any damage. At least Merab, as we saw in the Sandhagen fight, went for the finish with the hands, and in the O'Malley fight, went for the finish with the grappling. Anthony Hernandez obviously will go for the finish if it presents itself to him. But yeah, so that's the book on Gamrot. He's going to keep a relentless pace, a relentless pressure. He doesn't have a great chin, doesn't have great striking defense in general, but he has great recovery, and he has great pace and cardio and pressure, and he draws Charles Oliveira, who is about as known a commodity as you could have at this, in the sport. Oliveira's been fighting in the UFC for damn near 20 years now. And he, the book is out, you know what I mean? Oliveira's a legend. He's got power in his hands. He's got really crisp boxing technique, really crisp, combination punching. When he goes to the ground, he's an absolute ace on the ground in terms of jiu-jitsu. His wrestling is improving every day, He will still get out-wrestled by the best wrestlers in the sport, guys like Arman Tsarukyan, guys like Islam Makhachev. But although Gamrot's wrestling is just as good as those guys in terms of positional awareness and switching and things like that, he doesn't inflict nearly as much damage as those guys, and certainly does not go for the finishes nearly as much as those guys do. So it's a little bit different. You might be looking on paper and be like, Oliveira's had trouble with wrestlers in the past. Guys like, even Paul Felder, Ricardo Lamas, these guys, used to run him through in his early days. But you can also look at other fights that Oliveira has fought against wrestlers where he's done very well at defending the takedowns and putting damage on them on the feet. Primarily guys like Beneil Dariush, I think that's a great example for this fight. You can look at Arman Tsarukyan, that fight with Arman Tsarukyan, and be weary for Oliveira. And, honestly, you can look at any of Oliveira's performances recently and be weary for him because it seems like he's definitely slowing down. But stylistically, this is a fight that he certainly can win, Gamrot obviously has the cardio advantage against everybody, but, he's not that, like I said, he's not that potent. So, yeah, Oliveira's going to be looking for damage in every position, and I think that's really going to be the difference maker here against Gamrot. Gamrot tends to sort of coast a little bit, or at least rest on his laurels a bit, and I think that Oliveira can make it very uncomfortable for him in certain positions and, put some damage on him and win this fight. down the stretch. He might even get a finish here, honestly. I could definitely see Oliveira getting a finish here, actually. He's one of the most potent finishers in the UFC's history. Gamrot is, obviously very tough, and I can't remember ever seeing him get finished. Let me just double check that. Yeah, he's never been finished. Damn, that's actually kind of crazy. He's never been finished. I mean, Oliveira could be the guy to do it, but Oliveira could also just win rounds and win a decision here. You know what I mean? But either way, I'm excited to see how the fight shakes out. I think it's an interesting stylistic matchup. I think both of these guys present some pretty interesting questions to the other one. And if Oliveira has not gotten entirely old overnight, I'm pretty confident in him here. I think he can get it done. Either way, I see this fight going over 1.5. Yeah, so let's go down to the co-main event. You got Deiveson Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson. This is a really quick turnaround for Figueiredo, man. I mean, we just saw him fight Corey Sandhagen in like March, I want to say. Maybe it was April. Either way, it was not that long ago. Yeah, in May. Oof, wow. That was like 5 months ago, and he got his knee torn to shreds in that fight. You guys remember that? I mean, I think it was some leg entanglement or 50-50 position, and they had to stop the fight. And he's coming back 5 months later. I really don't like that, I mean, usually you got to take 6 months at least just to start working out again or whatever for a knee injury like that. So, does not bode well here. And he's fighting Montel Jackson, who is fucking good. Like, this guy's really good. He's a great wrestler. He's got a great pop in his hands. He's famous for me for knocking out Damon Blackshear in like 18 seconds. And, since then I think he got an injury after that fight, but he got a victory against Daniel Marcos in his last fight, who was another undefeated guy who was really good. So, I mean, I think this is about as close to a lock as you can get on this card. Primarily because of the circumstance, prime, not prime versus prime, because Figueiredo's not that far off from his prime, but if he wasn't coming off of that knee injury so recently, I'd be a lot more confident in him in the spot, but I'm really not. So I'm going to take Montel Jackson here, and I'm going to take him by KO, TKO, because I think there's a good chance that Figueiredo re-injures that knee, ends up in a position he can't get out of, and Montel just, finishes him ground and pound or something like that. Then you got Vicente Luque versus Joel Alvarez. This is shameless matchmaking here from the matchmakers. Joel Alvarez going up to welterweight for the first time in his career, which much necessary move. The guy's like 6'3", 6'4" at lightweight. It's crazy. So going up to welterweight, I'm all for it. He draws Vicente Luque, who should not be fighting anymore. He had a brain bleed a couple years ago, and he's never looked the same since. I mean, he had a really good performance against Themba Gorimbo, where he finished him. But besides that, it's really been rough. It's been rough for Luque. And he draws Joel Alvarez, who's one of the most violent finishers and fighters in the UFC roster right now. So, the book is out. I mean, I can't spell it out for you any further. I'm going Joel Alvarez here by finish. I think he probably knocks him out in the first 2 rounds, but I could see him clubbing and subbing Vicente Luque. Alvarez has a lot of submissions on his record, so don't sleep on that aspect of his game. But I think he's going to hurt him bad. I think he's going to hurt him really bad. So give me Joel Alvarez here by finish. And you got Jonathan Deniz versus Mario Pinto. This is a fight I'm actually really excited for. These are 2 heavyweight prospects, or as close as you can get to a prospect in the heavyweight division right now. Mario Pinto, much more explosive, much more well-rounded, much more wild. Jonathan Deniz, glory kickboxer, inherently better technique because of that lineage. But, you watch his fights, he throws a lot of leg kicks. He also has really bad wrestling defense. Mario Pinto, we haven't really seen that aspect of his game too much, that I can remember at least. And he's coming off of a second-round knockout of Austin Lane, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's like not the best victory that you can get. Obviously it's not bad. It's always good to get a victory in the UFC, but I think if I remember correctly, Austin Lane wrestled him in the first round and then got knocked out in the second. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but I remember just feeling like waiting for Pinto to land that big shot to put down Lane, and it eventually did happen. I'm not sure that will present itself here against Deniz. Deniz has shown incredible toughness, and again, I do think he's the more technical striker. I think the leg kicks are going to be a big tool for him in this fight, and I'm confident in Deniz here. I know he's coming off of a pretty bad, I think that was his last fight, pretty bad loss to Marcin Tybura. No, okay, yeah, he beat Alvin Hines, that's right. Yeah, he didn't look spectacular against Hines, but Hines was coming in on short notice. It was a change of opponent. That guy was tough. He also popped after that fight. So, if Pinto can go the wrestling, that would be a great tool for him in this fight, but it's not really something we've seen from him. So I'm going to go with Denise here because of the striking lineage. I think he'll have a little bit more tools in the toolbox to use here, and I think he should be able to get it done. Probably by decision, but I'm just going to go money line. It's pretty close to pick him right now, so I'm not mad at that. Ricardo Ramos versus Con Offley. This is an interesting one because Con Offley doesn't look great. He looks decent. He's a pressure wrestler. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. He lost to Myron Santos in the final. And he draws here Ricardo Ramos, who is now old. He's an old man now. I think he's 38. Something like that. Maybe I'm overestimating. Oh, he's only 30? Jesus Christ, this guy is shop-worn. Oh, my God. Yeah, he's looked really bad lately. He's gotten finished twice in the first round not long ago, coming off of a loss to Chepe Mariscal. Where the hell is Chepe Mariscal, by the way? Whatever happened there? But anyway, yeah, so, you know, you're going to see Con Offley shooting for takedowns. You're going to see Ricardo Ramos trying to spin, trying to throw Rabona kicks, getting real cute with his striking. And I kind of feel like this is a trap, you know. The odds have Ramos as a favorite. I think minus 200 or so, minus 180 about. I wouldn't touch this fight with a 10-foot pole. I could see Ramos being completely shop-worn again in this fight and just getting wrestled and ground into the dirt by Offley. I could see Offley getting caught with a knee or an elbow while he tries to shoot in. So I'm just going to stay away from this matchup. You got Lucas Almeida versus Michael Aswell. This is going to be a fun fight to watch. Again, I wouldn't bet on it. I like Lucas Almeida in this spot, though. And then you got Jafel Filo versus Clayton Carpenter. I expect to see some pretty fun grappling exchanges out of these two. Filo, I think, should pull it out, but you never know these days. So, what the hell was that flash? That was weird. But yeah, you never know these days. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, those two fights, I'd probably, those three fights, rather, I'd probably just stay away from. And then you got Vitor Petrino versus Thomas Peterson. Now, this is another trap matchup here. Now, you know, you could see Vitor Petrino, you know, run through whoever it was that he ran through. Was it Austin Lane? I mean, how many people are going to beat Austin Lane in the UFC? It was Austin Lane. Jesus Christ. Petrino, you know, ran through him with the wrestling and the grappling, and this guy's, like, jacked. You know, he's going up to heavyweight. He looks good. He draws Thomas Peterson here, who it looks sloppy. He looks slow. He looks fat. But he's a good heavyweight. I mean, a good heavyweight by good heavyweight standards, right? Like, the guy, he has a jab. He has a leg kick. He can move. He certainly has cardio, and he definitely has a chin. So if he can defend the wrestling from Vitor Petrino, who literally has a round and a half of cardio, we've seen it before, I expect Peterson to be able to get this done. He's in a big underdog spot here at like plus 250 or something. I think it's worth the stab at. I don't know if I'd put it in my round robin or anything like that, but I might throw a tenner on Peterson here, even him to win by decision at plus 600. Absolutely insane. But he could knock him out if Petrino gets too tired. So I think this is a dog or pass situation. I wouldn't bank on Petrino being able to just run through all these guys. We'll see though. Next you got Beatriz Mesquita versus Irene Alekseeva. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. I guess they're setting up this Brazilian to get a victory here. The Russian Ronda or whatever, and Irina, she hasn't really lived up to that name. Then you got Lucas Roca versus Stuart Nickel. I don't know these guys. Walter Walker versus Muhammad Usman. This is a fight I'm looking forward to. Walter Walker is on a revenge tour right now for the UFC heavyweight division. He's exposing their grappling. He's exposing their leg lock defense specifically. I think he has 3 first-round finishes by heel hook. It might be 2. But either way, this is clearly something that he's looking for now. 3 first-round finishes by heel hook. And they're getting quicker and quicker. It's like a 1 minute, like a minute and 30 seconds, a minute and 10 seconds, and then now like less than a minute. Do you think he's going to do something different here? Ask yourself. Look into your heart. Look into your eyes. Look into your soul. Look into your mirror, or whatever you want to look into. If you had 3 first-round heel hooks in a row in a shitty division like heavyweight, would you stop what you're doing? I wouldn't. If I'm Walter Walker, I'm saying, hey, I'm going to keep doing this until it doesn't work. Muhammad Usman is not his brother. He's not Kamaru Usman. He doesn't have that takedown defense. He doesn't have that grappling pedigree. Fuck it. Walter Walker, first-round submission. Don't overthink it. Next, you got Julia Pilastri versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Man, I hope Kowalkiewicz can get this done. You know, she's shown some flashes of brilliance, or I guess flashes of who she used to be not long ago. But now she's coming off of 2 losses in a row. Pilastri just, in my opinion, does not look good. So, maybe Kowalkiewicz can get this done, but I'm not going to bank on it, and she's a huge underdog here. Then you got Luan Lacerda versus Simon Oliveira. Again, I don't know these guys. Hopefully it's a fun fight. Unranked bantamweight fights typically are. Let's go down the betting slip real quick, folks. We're going to start with the main event. We're going to take Oliveira, money line. We're going to take Montel Jackson. We're going to take Joel Alvarez. We're going to take Jonathan Deniz. We're going to take, what's the other one? Walter Walker, first round submission. We got 5 picks for you here. I'm going to go through them one more time, and I'm going to give you some props if you want them. Oliveira and Oliveira by finish. We're going to go Montel Jackson by KO. Joel Alvarez by finish. Jonathan Deniz by decision. And then we're going to go Walter Walker, first round submission. I would maybe take a stab on Con Offley. I would maybe take a stab on Thomas Peterson because the guys they're fighting aren't as solid as they're listed in the terms of the betting lines. But yeah, I think it's a pretty solid 5-fight card there for you. Thank you very much for watching. We went 8-3 last week on our 11-pick fight card, which was ambitious and it paid out. So hopefully we can keep the ball rolling. And yeah, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more signature move series in my shorts tab and more career retrospectives coming down the line. Thinking about doing one on Yuri Prochazka. That fucking victory last week got me so hyped, man. But we'll see what happens, I appreciate y'all. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the support. Have a lovely day. Peace out.